Hey everybody, welcome back to A Matter of Life and Maiden, the podcast of the Beast. I am Joe Labriola, and on today's episode 38, I want to talk about Dave Murray. Today is David Michael Murray's 68th birthday. He was born on December 23rd, 1956, and today is December 23rd, 2024. It's kind of going to be like the best of Dave Murray. So, Dave is the longest standing guitarist in the band. He's been on every studio album, and he's been in the band really about a year after Steve formed it. I think 1976, Dave's been in the band. He got kicked out briefly, but it was very short-lived. He was back in within a heartbeat, and he's been back in the band since then. So he was kicked out in like 77, but he came back in 78, and he's been back ever since. But I love all the guys in Iron Maiden, and Davey is... I love Adrian, I love Yannick, I love Dave. They're all equal to me. Adrian is my favorite because my playing is more like him. Like, I try to emulate him. It just feels natural almost to play like Adrian. Not that I can't play like Davey either, but Matt loves Davey. Davey's Matt's favorite guitarist in the band. I like Adrian, and I like all of them. I love Ian too. I love them all. The thing about Davey is he's a really good legato player. Like he just has a way of tying notes together, and they flow so superbly. It's insane how he does it. But his playing style is super unique, and it's very like 70s prog or like 70s hard rock sounding. It has that feel. To compare it and contrast it, you can see where Ritchie Blackmore really influenced him. He has that kind of Ritchie Blackmore, Jimi Hendrixy kind of feel with his playing, and then obviously he puts his own stamp on it. And now he's, obviously with his storied career, he sounds like Dave Murray. So some of the solos he's been able to pull off throughout the years have been absolutely magnificent. I don't even know where to begin. The guy's a legend. I'm kind of going to go through, every album here and try to pick like a song or two that highlights his playing, but truly the guy rips on every solo he's ever done. I mean, and I'm not understating that. Like he shreds. Like Davey is, Matt said this on the podcast before, Davey's more of like a pure guitarist in the band. And I think Yen is too. The difference is, with Davey's legato technique and his playing, he adds a dimension to the band. Adrian's more melodic, and he has a lot of like songwriting credits, especially since the reunion. So he has that piece. And then Yen is more of like an improvisational guitarist. He kind of just does stuff off of the cuff and does things in like a weird, wonky, unorthodox way. In terms of like pure speed guitar virtuosity, I think they're all amazing. Davey there's just something about his playing with the speed and the technique. I don't know what it is. The one thing about Yen that I will say is he has grown immensely over the years, especially since the reunion. But I will say, in terms of like actual solos, if I had to pick, Yen's improvisational style isn't my favorite out of the three guitars. I still think it's great. I think it's astounding. But for my ear and what I like to hear, especially, it's hard because he wasn't in the band for, their heyday in the 80s. So you have this really nice this really nice contrast between Adrian and Dave from the Killers album forward up until Seventh Son, which pretty much is the foundation of the band. And then when Yan comes in, and then we'll talk about reunion to the present, like Brave New World onward, they all have their own style, and it really, really makes these records amazing to have three guitars, which is why it's awesome. But anyway, this is about Davey. So the first album, every song really, his work on Prowler is astounding. His work on Charlotte the Harlot, he wrote that. It's the only song credit I think he wrote, and he's been in the band for 46 years, and this is the song that he decided to to write, and the only full writing credit by Davey. But his solo work is absolutely amazing, hands down. Prowler's unbelievable, but Phantom of the Opera, like his solos on this are absolutely timeless. Phantom of the Opera is one of my favorite Iron Maiden songs, and when Matt and I ranked it, I think it was in the top 3. I think this was number 3. Number 2 being How Would Be Thy Name and Rhyme the Ancient Mariner. Matt picked Rhyme as number 2 and Howard as number 1. I picked Howard as number 2 and Rhyme as number 1, so we both kind of met in the middle and said they were both number 1. But Phantom of the Opera is up there. I mean, it's upper echelon Maiden. It's one of the greatest Iron Maiden songs ever written, as far as I'm concerned. And Davey is the reason why that's where it's at for us and for me. So he just rips on this. He outshines Dennis Stratton. I mean, like it's unbelievable. So moving on from Iron Maiden, let's jump right into Killers. Again, while this album is more focused on Paul and his style, and I think it fits him well, this is not really what Iron Maiden would become. They were more, the original album was more what they would become. Like the ideas like Phantom of the Opera, Remember Tomorrow, stuff like that they experimented with, that's kind of what they would become. There's a little bit of it on here, but like Davey on Ides of March, Davey on Rothschild, Davey on Killers. I mean, songs like that, I don't even know where to begin. Like he just rips. Like he's unbelievable. Some of the riffs he plays, some of the solos he plays. This record is immense, and he nails it on pretty much every single song. Moving forward from Killers is Number of the Beast, and this is where like they get Bruce and things start to really change. It reminds me of Tony Iommi said this when Ozzy left Black Sabbath and they got Dio. And Tony was like, just how he sings and how he writes and his lyrics just make me want to challenge me and stretch me to be a guitar player. And that's exactly what happened when Bruce came into the band. And then Adrian's in the band too now, so Adrian's still not on the level of Dave quite yet. Like he's still pretty damn good, but Dave is still like, I mean, he's shooting bullseyes over here. And Adrian's, not too far behind him, but he's not quite on the level of Davey just yet. It would take another album or two for Adrian to reach that level. And, then they both became just absolutely phenomenal. But again, on this, the entire album, like Davey's solos are unbelievable. The Prisoner solo is amazing. His 22 Acacia Avenue solo, the title track, Number of the Beast solo, the Run to the Hills solo, the How Would Be Thy Name melodies, and him just with the plectrum and his pick in his mouth, just plucking the notes at the beginning. This is an absolutely amazing display from Dave. Total Eclipse, like just the little fills and the riffs, the ditties. Davey is amazing. Now, the next record, Peace of Mind, this is when they get Nico, and it's been said a million times, this is the band. And then when you add Yan and Adrian and Bruce come back in 99, like the 6-piece, it's unbelievable. In the 80s it was this 5-piece band. Reunion 1999 of the President, it's a 6-piece band. But this album, for me, Peace of Mind, really showcases Davey's chops. Like, this is his album as a guitarist. I would say this album belongs to him and Nico. They're the two real stars of this record. And not everybody is, but really, really Davey as a guitarist and Nico and his drumming. But we're talking about Davey here. Like, the Where Eagles Dare solo, some mind-blowing shit. The Revelations, mind-blowing. Flight of Icarus, Die With Your Boots On, The Trooper, Still Life. Still Life is so haunting and eerie at the beginning, just that really moody kind of like chilled out solo. It's an example of Dave not really doing the crazy legato stuff. He's kind of like chilling out and being a little bit more melodic. And it just sounds absolutely amazing. And then To Tame a Land, like he rips on that too. Like, this is his record. This is his record of the 80s. If I had to pick an album from the 80s, I said Dave Murray's all over this. It's Peace of Mind. By far. By far. And then moving on from that, you get the Power Slave. And this is where they all just, everybody on this record shines. Like, this is why it's the apex. This is why this is a 10 out of 10 record for Matt and I. And it's one of my favorite albums of all time. It's because of that. But Aces High, 2 Minutes to Midnight, Back in the Village, the riff is unbelievable. And then these two last songs these are the Davey imprints, and Adrian has a lot of really great stuff on this too, but Power Slave, his Power Slave solo might be one of my favorite solos of his, period. Like, it's unbelievable. It sounds so, it fits the song absolutely perfectly. I have no idea what he's doing in this, besides just making my mouth hit the floor every time I listen to it to this day. When I listen to the studio LP, when I watch any version of it live, whether it's a bootleg, whether it's some concert footage somebody filmed, whether it's a live record, he blows me away. I've seen them play this several times, and every single time it's been unbelievable and so enchanting. I mean, the Run for Your Lives tour is going to be very, very hard, because if they pick like one song from Power Slave, I mean, I love Rhyme. It's my favorite Iron Maiden song, and I'd love to see that. But right after that, for me, is Power Slave. I haven't seen it in a while. The last time I saw it was on the Book of Souls World Tour in 2017, so I haven't seen it in like 7 years. I'd love to see Power Slave again and Rhyme the Ancient Mariner again. Davey's solo, like, especially on Rhyme and Power Slave, just his precision on these, it's face melting. It's face melting. Some of his most intricate guitar work to this date on Power Slave. Moving forward then to Somewhere in Time, this is Adrian's album. So while I think Davey still has some amazing guitar work in this, i.e. Caught Somewhere in Time and Deja Vu, he does really well, and his solo in Alexander the Great is butter. For the most part, Adrian really takes the cake on this, and down the line, I'm going to try to do a happy birthday best of for every single band member around their birthday times if I can. So today's obviously Davey. I want to celebrate Davey and do him first because it's December 23rd. It's almost Christmas. I figured this would be a good time to do this. But as far as Somewhere in Time is concerned, it's really Adrian's album, and this is where he cements himself as like an equal to Davey. They're really close on Power Slave too, though. But this is where he's like, this is my album. And then ever since then, even going on a Seventh Son, they both just annihilate. They're absolutely amazing. But for this record, Davey has some really nice, intricate stuff, but not as much as Adrian. Seventh Son, this is where they both kind of shine. And Davey's Moonchild solo, his Infinite Dream solo, the Seventh Son solo, like, he's unbelievable. Like, he is unbelievable. I love Dave Murray. The Prophecy, like, some of the stuff that he does is ridiculous. The tapping stuff with Moonchild, his solo on Infinite Dreams, those might be, some of my favorites. And then his Seventh Son solo, just wow. And then, unfortunately, Adrian leaves the band, and then we get into the Dark Ages after this, where we go to No Prayer for the Dying, and Davey is an amazing solo player. So Holy Smoke is very good. His solo is amazing. And he has some really good guitar work in here. And it's awesome. But at the end of the day, like I said, I really don't care for No Prayer for the Dying. So Holy Smoke, and then he has a lot of great solos throughout the record, but even though the solo is good, it doesn't mean that the songs are that great. So for me, it's like, I like hearing Holy Smoke, I think it's good, but other than that, like, I kind of just don't care because I'm not really into the record that much. So moving on from that, Fear of the Dark. Davey's solo in Fear of the Dark is absolutely unbelievable, and Yen's is pretty good too, but Davey's is astounding. Astounding. It's ridiculously good. And Afraid to Shoot Strangers has some really cool melodic, kind of riffy, solo-y parts to it, but not really full-fledged as, Fear of the Dark is, like this in-your-face statement. Again, with Fear of the Dark, the album, I'm not a huge fan of it, so it's hard for me to find redeeming qualities, even though Davey does some really good solo work on it. Like every solo he's done, he's done over 150 solos probably in the Iron Maiden catalog or more, and they're all amazing for the most part. X Factor, I mean, hands down, the best thing on this is Sign of the Cross and Davey solo, the crazy tapping solo. It's ridiculous. This is, out of all the Iron Maiden songs and out of all the epics in their entire catalog, this one here is the most underrated. And I'm really glad that they brought it back for Legacy of the Beast, because they hadn't played it since Rock in Rio when they were doing the Brave New World tour for that album. And it was such an amazing song to see live. I saw it live 3 times, and wow. Watching Dave rip is a joy to behold. And it's one of his best solos. It's one of, it's up there with Power Slave as being one of my favorite Dave Murray solos of all time. He's absolutely unbelievable. Most of the solos he does are absolutely amazing. The guy is Iron Maiden, and he brings his own flair and his own flavor, and he meshes so well with Adrian, and so well with Ian. Like, he's unbelievable. Virtual 11, his Future Real solo is so good. It's amazing. It makes the song, really. And everything else he does on here, I think Lightning Strikes Twice is pretty good. I do like the Klansman stuff. I think that's interesting. I love all the stuff on here. Yen starts to step up a little bit on this too, from the earlier stuff. It's almost like when Adrian was in the band for like Killers, and then he started to get even better for Number of the Beast, and then he got even better for Peace of Mind, then he got even better like Power Slave. By Power Slave, he's just as good as Davey. Like, they're on par with each other, and then he kind of outshines Davey on Somewhere in Time, and on Seventh Son, they're both really close to each other again. And like, it's the same thing with Ian. Like, it's a slow start. Like, No Prayer for the Dying, it's okay. Fear of the Dark, it's a little bit better. Then X Factor, it's like okay again. And then Virtual 11, he's kind of like coming into his own here a little bit and trying to do some crazy stuff. But unfortunately, it was Blaze, so that was that. But then the great thing is they all became better. Even though Adrian wasn't in a band, he was playing with Bruce with his solo careers and his solo albums with Accident of Birth and Chemical Wedding. They come back together, and it's just magic. And you get all 3 of these guys killing it. But for Davey, definitely Future Real. And a slew of other songs on that record. Then we get to Brave New World, the reunion, the 6-piece band as we know them. This is my Iron Maiden. I've said this before. The title track on this for Dave is unbelievable. Brave New World. Again, this is one of his best solos. I love Dave's Brave New World solo. It's one of his greatest solos. It's absolutely killer. It's amazing. He is a legend. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. His stuff on the Nomad is unreal. His stuff on the Thin Line Between Love and Hate is incredible. And then when Adrian comes back in again, he's kind of like, creeping in again. Like, and we'll talk about Adrian on another episode, but like he only has a couple writing credits on this. And then you'll see as things go on where they start to separate a little bit, and then Adrian becomes more of the writer, guitar player. and Davey's just the pure guitarist, like we talked about. But yeah, Brave New World. It might be Davey's album of the modern day. The modern day, or Yan's. I mean, they both do a lot of writing on that. They both have a lot of really good stuff on that. Moving on, Dance of Death, Rainmaker, Dave Murray's Rainmaker solo, absolutely beautiful. Every time I hear it, it's incredible. It's incredible. The thing about these next couple albums is every single one of the guys on these next couple albums, whereas like Brave New World is almost like they each have their own really cool signature solos, and like Davey has like 3 or 4 songs he has some signature solos in. Yan has 3 or 4 songs he has signature solos in. Adrian only has like 2 or 3. Now we're at Dance of Death, and like every single guy has like a signature solo, and then there's a couple songs where they all have a solo in, and it's amazing. It's amazing. So that's why I love the reunion too, because you really get to see all 3 guitarists shine in different ways, whether it's the single songs that they wrote where they have multiple solos, or when they're each guitarist gets a solo in a song. It's amazing. And this is no exception. Like I said, Rainmaker's pretty much Davies. That's his. But then if you listen to like No More Lies, Dance of Death, and Passchendaele, those songs in particular, like that stuff, everybody has a solo. And it's amazing. And Davies is no exception. Like he has some really great solo work on here. And I know he helped write Age of Innocence. I'm not really a big fan of that. His guitar work on that is awesome as usual, but Rainmaker on this is Davies' highlight. And then again, like I said, with the rest of the guys in Dance of Death, No More Lies, Passchendaele. A Matter of Life and Death, the crown for Davey on this, and the song that really cements him in this one for me, is The Reincarnation of Benjamin Brigg. I mean, the riff is absolutely tasty. The and even like at the beginning with the kind of like ambience and the quietness, and then he does a pick slide and goes right into it, and how all of that happens. And again, a lot of the guys in this each have a solo, especially like in later songs, like For the Greater Good of God, Lord of Light, The Legacy. They all get a really nice time to shine. But for Davey, it's The Reincarnation of Benjamin Brigg. That song, and that's his only writing credit on this record, and he just kills it. He kills it, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And then you'll see is where Davey had like, since the reunion, he might have like 1, 2, 3 song credits. Now he's only getting 1. So like this is the only song credit he gets, and then the next album, so on and so on. He only has like 1 credit on every album. So he starts to become less of a writer and more of just like Matt said before, like a pure guitarist. But there's no discount in The Reincarnation of Benjamin Brigg. Again, it's one of his finer songs, and it's one of my favorite songs in the Maiden catalog. A Matter of Life and Death is one of my favorite albums, period. And I love Davey's work on that. Moving on to The Final Frontier. Looking at this album, it's really cool because it's kind of like Somewhere in Time, in that I feel like other guitarists kind of outshine Davey on this one a little bit. I feel like Yan and Adrian have better songs on this, or more interesting songs. Dave has The Man Who Would Be King, which I think is kind of, it's different. It's very slow. It's a calmer song. It's not quite as heavy or as progressive as some of the other epics on this record, but it is a really beautiful song. And Satellite 15, The Final Frontier, the first track, Dave and Adrian have a lot of back and forth guitar work, which is really cool. And after that, I mean, Isle of Avalon, Starblind, all the guys get different solos, but Adrian carries usually the bulk of that for Isle of Avalon and Starblind. I think he might have 2 solos in both of those songs, or 3 solos in both of those songs. And then when The Wild Wind Blows, they all have some really cool, intricate parts in. So it's more of like a team effort as the reunion happens. But for Davey, The Man Who Would Be King is his on this. I mean, I feel like, and he does a really good job in some of the other songs on this too. But The Man Who Would Be King is his, and he does it well. Even though I like some of the other stuff better. Moving on to Book of Souls. This is the sad part. The writing credit Davey has on this is The Man of Sorrows, and I'm not really a big fan of that. His guitar work is amazing. The solo is really good, how it opens up, but then the song just doesn't take off. But some of the rest of the work on this, and the Red and the Black, the title track, The Book of Souls, everybody in Empire of the Clouds. It's so hard to do this episode because I'm sitting here thinking about all the guitar solos and how everybody has a little time to shine. It's like they share it. They share it so effortlessly since the reunion. And that's kind of the difference between the 80s and the reunion. Like, in the 80s, it was like they were going back and forth, and it was like Adrian, Dave. Now there's three guys in the band, so it's like, how do you pick this? And I don't know how they did it, but they've done a really great job of splitting up duties. And I love how they all get a solo in a song, or they all have one song that highlights them. And in this one, unfortunately, Davey's song that he wrote is not one of my favorites. I think it's one of the worst Iron Maiden songs ever written. I hate to say that about Dave because I think he's amazing, but he shines elsewhere with his solos and the rest of the album proper. And then moving on to the latest record, Senjutsu. This is awesome, and I just saw the Future Past tour a little over a month ago, about 6 weeks ago, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And, man, the songs that they play were just amazing. Like, and I saw Legacy of the Beast in 2022, and they played 3 Senjutsu songs on that, too. So, Dave doesn't have any writing credits on this record, but his solos in this still are ridiculous. Like, his Writing on the Wall solo is incredible. Death of the Celts, the pieces he has. If you listen to the record, the pieces in the Parchment, the pieces in Hell on Earth. I mean, the guy's awesome. And I feel like when you're moving into the newer stuff, it's cool to see how, even though Davey hasn't written as much, he can still just throw out a kick-ass solo whenever it needs to be done. At any time, any place. But I will say, some of his most signature solos, the stuff where he's like, his signature solos, like I said, I do love the new stuff. I love the Writing on the Wall solo. I love the stuff that he does. His Hell on Earth solo is unbelievable. Modern day, it takes me back to like Brave New World. Gives me even the stuff even further back when we talked about like Flight of Icarus and Where Eagles Dare. He's just laying on that whammy bar and just ripping with it. It's awesome. And even Rhyme the Ancient Mariner, when he does the whammy bar stuff and the swells. His Hell on Earth solo is astounding. The Writing on the Wall solo is astounding. His intricate guitar work in Death of the Celts is absolutely phenomenal. And I think it's great. I think watching him as a player and how he's evolved is unbelievable. He still has some kind of like old school feel in his playing. I don't know what it is. It does sound very like 70s, 80s, like just that majestic guitar play, like virtuosity. Like he has this virtuosity about him. All the guys do. You know, Adrian and Yan do too. But his sound is just so unique, and that's what's so great about this band, that every guitarist has a unique sound. They all aren't trying to emulate one another. They're all different, and you hear the differences when you listen to the new records, when you see them live, the way they play. It's unbelievable. But for me, to pick an era, I think Davey's strongest guitar work was the stuff that he did in the 80s. I mean, that was some of the most unbelievable. And listen, since the reunion, he's had some kick-ass shit too. I talked about Brave New World. I talked about Rainmaker. I talked about Reincarnation of Benjamin Brieg. I'm not trying to cut the man down. He's absolutely amazing. But in terms of like a songwriting perspective and how he's contributed to the actual writing process, I think the last good song that he actually contributed and it was a part of writing was the Reincarnation of Benjamin Breeding, and that's been some time ago now. But that's just songwriting. Solo wise, every solo he throws out there is absolutely fucking amazing. And I've kind of talked about some tidbits and some small portions of the ones I think are his best. But yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see what the new album when it comes out. I'm hoping in 2026. If I had to take a guess, I feel like that's when it's going to be. But we'll see. And I love seeing, again, all these different things. And I appreciate Dave so much because another thing about Davey and Adrian is in their relationship, it reminds me of Matt and I. Matt was a little bit older than me, a couple months older than me. But he got the guitar first. He got into guitar before I did a little bit. He started playing before I did. When I was a kid, I had a couple guitars here and there, but I wasn't serious about it. I had guitars when I was like 8 years old, 12 years old, 14 years old, and I just never got into it. Matt decided one day when he turned 17, I'm going to go play. And he did. And he started playing. 16 or 17, he started playing for real. And he got serious about it. And then shortly after that, I got into it. So it was almost like Davey's in the band since the beginning. And then Adrian comes up and it's kind of interesting how he gravitated toward Davey and I gravitated towards Adrian because it was almost kind of like the same trajectory. It was like, hey, he's the guy who's going to play first. I'm the guy who's going to play second, and then we both got to a point where we were both really good, and we both complimented one another. And I was a different player than him, And we developed our own styles, and it really reminds me of that dynamic between Davey and Adrian. And that's why I love Davey and respect him so much too, is because it reminds me of Matt. Like Matt idolized Davey, I idolized Adrian, and then as we were getting influenced and grew up, and then we got to a place where we idolize everybody. And that's kind of where we're at now, where we have been for many, many, many years now. So, talking about in the early days, like when we first started getting into Maiden, Matt was all about Davey, I was all about Adrian. And then after we started seeing them in concert and stuff together and going to see them so many times, we loved everybody. But I think it's interesting. After this, I mean, I'm kind of going off the rails again here. I apologize, but again, I just wanted to highlight some stuff about Dave Murray. He's absolutely amazing. Happy birthday, Dave. 68th birthday. I hope your day's been great. We wish you the best in the matter of life and Maiden. The solos I mentioned, you are absolutely phenomenal. Davey's a Strat player. Sometimes he's played Les Pauls in more recent years, but predominantly the Stratocaster. And I'm a Strat guy myself. I have a couple Strats. I have a Les Paul. I have an Explorer. I have a bunch of different guitars. And they're all pretty much influenced by Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath, because those are my two favorite bands. But Iron Maiden, head and shoulders above Black Sabbath even. But yeah, thanks for listening. I hope everybody has a good day. Check out some of Davey's killer solos. I think I'm going to go put on the Power Slave album right now and listen to the Power Slave song because, I don't know, when I was talking about it here on this record, it just really made me want to listen to Dave solo again. So I think I'm going to go do that. But remember, Maiden's life, the rest is history. Happy birthday again, Dave. See you guys next time.